My name is Tony Elion. I am a JAG for the United States Air Force. I work at Whiteman Air Force Base.
My name is Yanna Elion. I am also an attorney, not for the Air Force, for a private law firm, so I work from home. I came here one morning, I was having really bad stomach pains, and I knew that I was scheduled to have a C-section, but it was about a month early, so I just wanted to confirm if I was having maybe Braxton Hicks contractions or something else was going on. And so once I changed clothes, the nurses, she looked at my ultrasound and then she saw something on there that caused alarm. She ran out of the room, came back in the room with the OB, and they just immediately started prepping me for a C-section. So I called Tony at work and I asked him to come to the hospital.
I got the call about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was at work, I was at my desk, and during that time, it was we were having like an annual inspection. So I knew if she was calling, something serious was going on. I got here about 15 minutes later, and after I arrived, she was already in surgery. I went through the ER, went through to labor and delivery. The nurse who was at the front desk, when I told her who I was, she put pep in her step. She's like, "Oh, you come with me now." We get back there, and it's a lot of people and a lot going on. And they're telling me, walking me through what to expect. They're saying, okay, the baby needs to be life flighted and taken to Kansas. As soon as the baby is out of the operating room and they have the baby situated, they immediately come find me in the waiting room. They say, "Hey, mom's still getting worked on. You want to go meet the baby?" Of course. So I walk back and I meet the baby, and this is our first child, my first child, her first child. And so she held my finger and we took pictures, and I was afraid to touch her because she was so tiny. I think she was about 5 pounds. And I stayed in there for about 20 minutes or so, and they said, "Hey, mom's getting ready to come out of the operating room. You want to go back and be with mom? We'll make sure baby's okay." I get back there, and now I'm seeing her for the first time, but she's not fully awake. They eventually figure out that she is still bleeding. Her uterus wouldn't stop bleeding, so they had to give her a full hysterectomy. And so they said, "Hey, look, you have to make a decision. Do you want us to proceed with this surgery or not?" And they were like, it's pretty much the only way if you want to save her. When things would slow down, I would touch her on her arm, and there were all these wires, and she was so swollen and she was cold to the touch. She was dying. They eventually took her from the ICU and they took her back to the operating room, and I asked Dr. Pegues, "How long will this procedure take?" He said, "I don't know." They were asking if we had anything at home or anybody at home we needed to, and we have a dog. And so they asked, "Well, let me get the keys, I'll go home and let the dog out." And she went to the house and they couldn't find the dog. She looked everywhere, no one could find the dog. They called all the shelters, they called the vets. Eventually they found out, she had been dropped off at the vet earlier that day by Yanna, and I just hadn't, recalled that she was going to be at the vet that day. They're telling us, "Hey, we're not out of the woods yet. We have to see how, the surgery went well, but we have to see how she does overnight." And so now you are up, and it's 10 o'clock, it's 12 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock, it's 4 o'clock. Every 15 minutes, the nurses came in to check on her. Every 15 minutes, they were doing something that was making sure that she would make it through the night. And then Dr. Plume came in. He was the first one that came in at 8 a.m. And he was like, "Okay, her signs, her vitals are looking good. We have to see if she's able to breathe on her own." They turn the machines off and she starts to breathe on her own. And she can't talk. and we give her a pen, and she writes, and the first thing she writes is dog. She is trying to convey that the dog is at the vet, so she doesn't realize.
It's maybe 3 p.m. the day before, like, hey, you need to pick up the dog before 6 o'clock. Like, make sure you get the military discount.
Yeah, and in reality, it's been about 18 hours, and she has been fighting for her life. We still had to get in an ambulance and drive an hour and a half to the next hospital in order to be under the same roof and reconnected with our daughter.
One thing for me, I was terrified of giving birth here. I know the maternal mortality rates for Black women, and I was like, okay, you're here in the city, there's not a lot of people of color here at all, and it's a small facility, it's a small place, you're going to die here. And I'd been saying this my whole pregnancy, I don't want to be here. I looked at going to other cities, but I was like, it doesn't make sense if we're 6 minutes from the hospital for me to drive 45 minutes away. So I was just so terrified of being here. And the one thing I keep thinking, I'm like, the exact thing you were scared of, that's what saved your life.
Throughout all of this time, all of the staff, whether it was the nurses, whether it was the social workers, whether it was the doctors, whether it was the anesthesiologists, or the people who were there to monitor the machines, they made sure that whatever it was that we needed outside of medical care, just human care, like it was beyond anything we could have anticipated.
And there are even now people that, to me, I've never met because I wasn't conscious. They see you and they just hug you and I'm praying for you. And it's just, I don't think we would have gotten that anywhere else. Once we finally came home from the hospital, for me, that's the first time I really got really emotional, because she went to Oakland Park via helicopter, I went via ambulance, he went via car. So when we all finally got back in his truck and they're driving together, it's like, oh, this is it. This is our family. This is what life is going to be like.
She's being indoctrinated into all things that Dad loves. So we had our first WrestleMania this weekend. So we watched WrestleMania. She fell asleep in the first match. So there was that. And basketball, we've watched a lot of basketball together. She hasn't learned how to smile yet, but it's coming.
We're waiting on this.
It's coming. It's been 2 months. She's going to smile very soon, any day now. They saved my wife's life. They saved my daughter's life. I've watched them go above and beyond, and they didn't have to. And that's just what they do. There is an investment in the human element that you won't get anywhere else besides coming to Western Missouri Medical Center.